All right, welcome everyone. We're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we're here for Beastars Season 1, Episode 8.
Legoshi.
We need to talk about how much you love those egg sandwiches, boy.
Yes. Oh, man, last episode
was incredible. There were so many little things that they did that made it enjoyable, tense, fun, and yet the way it ended, like that is just Legoshi.
You need to be honest with yourself about your feelings, so that way, because that whole repression thing that you're used to, it's not good.
Yeah. So we have barreling towards a conflict of sorts, a love triangle.
Yeah. And
that's actually kind of putting it lightly, because we also have somewhere in the mix of this Juno.
Right.
So it's about to get dramatic.
Yep.
In fact, it kind of already is. It's just a thing of where it's just going to keep getting more complicated.
And kids, this is why you need to be honest with yourself about whether you have feelings for someone or not. Because even if it might not be as dramatic as squeezing paint, tubes till they burst and whatnot, because you might not be a wolf. They can make things complicated. So be honest with yourself. Be honest with the people around you, and oh God, Legoshi.
I mean, some people are wolves. There's that one guy's like, by all things natural, I am a wolf.
God damn it.
So, Beastars.
Yeah.
Without further ado, let's get into this now. Oh yeah. Just walking on the wild side. I just want to sleep through my whole life. Sometimes wearing buffalo style.
I hope
Sometimes got a rock and roll.
I know this is gonna. We got painful times ahead and everything, right? But I hope it goes well-ish. Like, because, on the positive side, this is at least a very clear signal to Legoshi that the repression doesn't work,
Well, with any good drama, Jacob, there's conflict that isn't easily resolved.
Right, because people are complicated.
Night going through the blue tide.
I want to get to this.
Screaming, shouting, your mind. Going through the shine, going by the shooting stars. All I was talking about was music. And that's called jazz.
Oh boy. And in that part, like, you see tears forming in his eyes, before it cuts to the blood.
Yep.
Okay.
Someone is emotionally distraught. Oh. Oh. Okay. Oh, okay.
A lion mayor.
I need pictures of Spider-Man!
Yeah.
Oh, yikes. Whoa. Whoa.
So,
that's like, that's what I thought he was gonna go with the angle of, was like,
yeah. So,
Oh, this is awkward.
I thought that there was like maybe some unreliable narrator stuff going on or whatever, but
レゴシ君ってさ、初めて会った日も思ったけど、何考えてるか全然わからないよね。
Right, and that unpredictability makes him a little bit scary at points, yeah.
なんであの日のことについてレゴシ君は一切触れないの？初対面のウサギが自分と寝ようとしたなんてさ、今は友達なんだから笑い話に。
open communication.
Yeah.
That would be nice.
とってはすごい出来事だったんだ。
Oh, there you're talking about it. This is
Yeah.
good.
この方にしまっておくことに
How about not?
するつもりもない。こうやって簡単に自分を差し出したりする。
Making you should statements in general is
Yeah.
just something you
Well,
should avoid.
Yeah, should statements in general, even if not you should.
見合わせる動物の気持ちなんて知りもしないくせに。誰かに話せることもないまま。話してよ。私別の車両に乗る。
ダメだよ。もっと話すべきことがあるでしょ。
何もないわよ。私は事実を言っただけ。
Yeah. Legoshi. Yeah, Legoshi made
Yeah,
the point of
that-
saying,
話してよ。走って逃げるわよ。
なんで？
いいから。
whoa, okay.
始まれるでしょ。
バカね。このご時世肉食が草食に力に物言わせたらそれだけで使
Oh, seriously?
うのがずぶとい。
Just, she's so slow.
こと言ったって俺なりにもさ
He's like, I almost kicked her, yeah.
俺たちは
It would almost be better if he just picked her up.
Okay.
初めてできた好きな子の前で初めて狼の自分を肯定できた気がした。どこに向かうのか
If she hopped on his back like a backpack,
Yeah, yeah.
they'd be able to go
Uh-huh.
really quick. Oh, that's a cool shot. That's great.
リオか。
Okay. Well, this is all kinds of awkward.
初めて近くで聞いて気づいた。肉食獣は喋るとき、声と一緒に
Whoa.
喉の奥の方でうなり声が響く。そんな低い声をどうしてあなたはそんな表情で発
Wow. Yeah.
舞台なのか繊細なのかどっちかにしなさいよって。そういうこと恐る恐る聞くから怖がられちゃうの。
Right, because it's about the decision that you make whether to be bold or sensitive.
あの夜のことを話さない。
Ugh. Whew. Oh man, this is tough.
私、実は一回肉食動物に食べられそうになったことあるんだ。暗闇で相手のことはよく見えなかったけど、学校でね。
Oh.
あの時死ななくてよかった。あの時は死と隣り合わせなんかじゃないよ。これは断言する。
Oh boy.
きっと俺たちは終わってしまう。それまでは俺自分を戒め続けるから。はるちゃん、今日はどうもありがとう。
Oh, yeah.
はい、ニコ。それわざと引きずらせてるでしょ。
That was kind of a smile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
もう少しだけ君と
Oh.
boy.
Oh. Whoa. Okay. Hard cut over here
Yeah.
to drama school. Let's
All right.
see what's going on here.
ビルにやられたって聞きましたよ。あと残らないといいですね。
お前の背中と一緒にするな。
Oh.
隕石祭も間近なのに、最近演劇部全体のまとまりがなってない。本番で一度も間違えず完璧にこなせるんだろうな。
The musical like,
Yeah.
right there.
クラスメイトの怠け者がトイレに急いでたから。
Oh my god. That's hilarious because he
That's great.
can't get there quickly,
Yeah.
you know?
レゴシ先輩、広場の恐竜見ましたよ。美術チームが頑張って 役者も全力で踊れます。
She's like, I planned exactly to say that. You know?
Yep.
And the way all the other guys are like,
Right.
wow,
We
wow.
worked on it too.
Yeah. He's like, wow, she's doing a really good job of leading here.
Yeah.
I mean, she's in love kind of too, so there's that, you know,
Extra
magnetic energy and charm that comes when someone is in that really positive, cheerful mood,
Right.
you know? That thing that Haru mentioned about the article, you know?
お疲れ様です。
まだ掃除してたのか。ライト1個じゃ暗いだろ。
狼は夜行性だから少し暗い方が気分いい先輩。自主練付き合ってもらえないですか？
初めて2匹きりになったが
しょうがない。
Okay.
早いですか？
というより荒っぽい。君がただ楽しそうに踊っていれば男は喜ぶだろうし、
Oh.
そこまで突き詰める必要はないと思うけど。
Hmm.
それ
Yeah, what are you trying to say? Yeah.
おい、
ルイ先輩は私をお嫌いなんでしょう。
Whoa, whoa,
というより肉食獣そのものが
whoa. Whoa.
私が好きなのはあなたじゃないレゴシ先輩です。これは宣戦布告なんです。
Whoa. Holy crap.
次のビースターは私がなります。
Oh.
肉食獣の時代とレゴシ先輩を手に入れるの。
Damn.
私は牙を向けるなんてことは絶対しませんよ。メスは争いが嫌いです。
Like, people hate conflict, but I. Okay.
美貌、知、1個目はもう君のものだが、2個目は僕が阻止するだろう。3個目、君の大好き
Oh no.
以上に
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Which is true. Which is true. He's dealing with a lot of stuff right now.
私絶対レゴシ先輩を振り向かせるもん。
Wow, that was an intense scene though.
Yeah.
Like,
That was not
Ah.
how I expected it to go.
もしかして彼女持ちなの？
さあさあ、学校戻るわよ。ああ、遅くなっちゃった。
who does he go back with basically?
レゴシ先輩、
Yeah. Uh-huh.
リハーサルうまくい
Yeah.
きました。レゴシ先輩が練習に付き合ってくれたおかげです。
The
That was
way
hilarious.
あの隕石に火の灯ったろうそくを置いた男女は結ばれるってレゴシ先輩は知ってますか？
Oh.
どうだろうね。
のあの
This is so classic, but just oh.
当日私と
Oh.
まずい
Crap. Everyone stay together.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Cool. Because there's a lot of people here that don't have good dark vision and
Yeah, yeah. Basically, him, Bill, and Juno
Yep.
go on the defensive.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
演劇部何匹来てた？
Good. Yeah. Count. Yep. Get a roster basically.
ありがとう。
Oh.
で終わるから気にしないで。
So he's gonna split from the group.
Yeah.
ごめん俺ちょっとここはるちゃん
Crap.
はるちゃん
The smell. What is it?
落ち着け
Oh. Wow. Wow.
Ouch.
Oh, that's oh, that's gotta hurt.
Oh.
Yeah.
レゴシ君。ごめん。
Ooh.
私、やだ。本当にごめん。
はるちゃんが無事でよかったよ
本当に何も見えなかったの。ごめんなさい。
Oh.
怪我ない
Oh.
汚れちゃってるはい
そんな
She's like, wait.
Yeah.
She's like, a
狼。
rabbit?
But, come on, like, I'm a wolf. Like, He's smiling. Like,
Yeah, the way he looks. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Well, okay.
All right.
All right.
This is actually one of the simpler episodes in terms
It
of
was,
like the
yeah.
actual plot.
Yep.
But the scenes in which they did to continue the relationship drama, specifically all the Juno scenes. Oh man.
I gotta say, I expected it to go a lot worse after how the last episode left off.
Yeah, I think that's the thing though, is that this is a slow burn show with regards to the
Right.
actual character drama, because when you think about the world building stuff, it's fast in order to get us up to speed.
Right.
But the characters are people. They're complicated. They
Yeah.
don't know what they're feeling like most of the time. So they need to express it, have lots of communication and stuff, and yeah. Oh. Whew.
Well,
Right.
all right.
Yeah. Da, 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 da.
That was really cool, though, of like
da,
the lights going off, and then it's like, oh shit, everyone get in a circle. predators on the outside, like or carnivores on the
nocturnal
outside.
Animals.
Right.
Because, Alba, for instance, is a bird, so he's not necessarily like on the same level as a tiger.
Right.
But he is able
Right.
to see plenty
Yeah.
fine in the dark. So he can, they can work together. But yeah, what it is it feels like the equivalent of like the emergency alarm was set off in a school and suddenly everyone does their practice drill of what to do. But
Uh-huh.
that tells you that they practiced that
Yeah,
at one
sure,
point,
yeah.
which is kind of freaky.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Relationship drama.
Yeah, just a little bit. And,
Just a bit.
and Animal Kingdom territorial threat displays and, alpha kind of
Yep.
situations.
Yeah.
Which-
and because
okay.
it's primarily within a, idealistic society with, multi-species, interactions on a peaceful-esque,
Right.
dynamic. We end up in situations where a wolf has to give, feels the desire to give a territorial threat display,
Right.
essentially, to a deer
Yep.
because of the status power dynamic
Right.
within the actual school.
Now, to be fair, that's kind of speaking the one language Louis will understand, because that's what he specifically adopted for himself, of being sort of the alpha of this school.
Well, yes, but it's not that he wouldn't understand it if it was subtle though.
That's true.
He is someone that is adept at this, so this was just a very overt, direct form of it.
Yeah, if anything, it shows
yeah.
some of Juno's that
This
Louis
is new for her.
That this is new for her,
Yes.
basically, and that she has to do it in that sort of blunt, overt of a way.
Again, she feels she has to.
Right.
Yeah.
But
Okay, so that's its own thing.
Right,
We
but at the
also
beginning
got
of the episode-
we also got Haru and Legoshi having a form of communication regarding the events that happened previously. What I liked was that I understood where Legoshi's immaturity with the situation came out in, and then Haru kind of called him out on it.
Yeah.
And then she ended up basically wanting to separate there, and he kind of demanded, no, let's actually keep talking about this, even though he had just said, I don't really want to talk about it in that specific way.
Yeah,
it was something that I felt for Haru in that situation there.
Right. It's something where it shows that Legoshi really needs to grow, and that he needs to also talk and let go and things like that, and get to the point where he's openly dealing with what he's going through, so that way it's not this unspoken thing that he still has to talk about and express, but he's not willing to do it in the simplest, healthiest way.
Right. We saw in the beginning of how he approached the actual thing there that this was still, minutes or hours after the whole paint squishing kind of thing. He had at very least cleaned himself up.
Yeah.
So it wasn't,
and it seemed like it was maybe a different day.
It might
I'm not
have
sure.
been,
It might not have been,
but I
but-
think that the way that he approached her showed that his predatory aspects were on full blast. Not, overtly as much, but giving her that, that instinct of, okay, you know, calm down.
Yep.
This is just, he's acting weird, but, you know, we're not in danger necessarily. Even though that is what she feels, that is because he is putting on that vibe.
Yep. And one of the things that, if anything, what I would want more of is Legoshi's internal thoughts when it comes to these points where he's displaying the more carnivorous sides of himself. Because since the nature that we normally see is so different, I want to see even though it would be a very emotionally based kind of a thing, or even beyond emotions, but maybe instinctually based thing, I want to see that sort of blend and transition in and out of it, because there's enough conflict that we see with him regarding that on a day-to-day basis, that when he has those worse moments, I want to see exactly where it's coming from, because sometimes it can come across as jarring to me that he's in that state.
Yeah, I think that's intentional. I think that when they focus on Haru and Legoshi's dynamic in an actual like conversation, they don't show both of them. They usually just show one or the other to give us a little bit of emphasis on whose perspective we're trying to really get some focus on. Even though it is third person for the most part, Haru was the primary one that we got a lot of insight for, to show that, Legoshi's actions are jarring. That's the point, is that he's confusing. And she's bold all of a sudden, and then he comes off really intimidating, and then he's really sensitive, and he comes off kind of fake. So you're like, what is this?
And given that that's something that Haru was actively wondering, that makes it work, you know, really well. But there's also this part of me that wonders, is it some aspect of kind of like a similar thing to like her leg kicking or Louis being focused on the hands, you know, where how much of it is what Legoshi's actually doing, and because she doesn't see into his head and we aren't either at that point, of course it would be a lot more jarring, versus her natural instincts of, if she sees a wolf doing something, you know,
his eyes getting bloodshot.
Well,
this is an anime, so we need to have some kind of visual representation of the storytelling. If it's a good anime, and this is an exceptionally good anime, so they're going to take little, you know, opportunities to do that. And they do things like that where they show like wolf form perspective, where they show the silhouette of his head and then her, you know, looking, basically showing how he's looking at her, and then they'll show like the aura of color on the other side to show that he's either, you know, intensely like, you know, focused and trying to restrain himself, or he's starting to lose a little bit of control, is when we see the red start to bleed in.
But I guess I guess it's something where because it feels like it's a different Legoshi at that point, which it is, right? It's a different side of him. I'm wanting to see where it tethers back to the Legoshi that we know. That way we can see a potential path forward, even if it's a long way off, for balance and that's, you know, all of that.
I think the issue with that, though, is that that's too straightforward. People don't have just paths forward that are obvious based on their own internal thoughts.
Sure.
And if anything, when we see him bring up like specific conflicts that have him making mistakes, like specific, very obvious mistakes, we then go, oh, okay, why is he making this mistake?
Right, like the whole thing of holding her arm and not letting go. Like
exactly.
I could see where that was coming from on his side, and of course, you know,
it's not okay.
This isn't okay.
Right,
stop.
Right, right. Like it's something where you could hear her tone change every single time she repeated "let go." It went from "Hey, you know, let me go" to "Hey, let me go" to "Hey, like." You went from okay, I get it, you're insistent, but you know, I'm still making my choice here. I need you to respect that too. Okay, wait, I have questions now.
And the trope of the guy that's not letting go of the girl, and then, you know, and it's like, okay, this isn't okay, and then people come in and they're like, what's going on? And then all of a sudden, then the girl is like, okay, I don't want to see this go badly for you
even more.
Yeah, exactly. And then that's sort of how the situation is resolved.
Right.
I like how they talked about it afterwards.
Yes. I think what sandwiched this kind of cliche scene, though, is what elevates it a bit more. Is that she is like, hey, what the hell? Why don't we just talk about the fact that we nearly slept together, but you seem to be avoiding that. We can just laugh about it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
We're friends, so like let's talk about it. And he mentioned something that I think is really interesting. He says, I can't talk about what happened so lightly. To me, that was a pretty big deal. So all I can do is keep it locked up deep inside.
The first half of that, great, awesome.
Like he's being like he's basically saying, I can't talk about it. He starts talking about it.
Uh-huh.
So all I can do is keep it locked up inside. You literally didn't do that by just starting
Saying
to talk
that it
about
was a big deal. Yeah.
Right. So
Uh-huh.
you're
Right.
in a self-contradictory mode because you're so distraught internally.
Yep.
Whatever's going on internally with you, Legoshi, is making you confused
Right.
and stuff. And that totally makes sense because you have a lot of feelings, you have a lot of emotions regarding this. It's okay. So then she doesn't respond yet.
Yeah.
Then he kind of
right.
starts to go into a little bit of a thing where he maybe projects about
totally.
he's like, I should do things a certain way. Well,
Right.
no, not necessarily, Legoshi. Then he goes, and you shouldn't do that. It's like
Because this is basically saying, I'm not going to talk about it, but I'm going to let my feelings on the matter completely color how I interact with you now, because I'm going to say that, oh, you shouldn't do that, because what I really want to say is that meant a lot to me. You're a special person to me, but I don't feel comfortable talking about that with you yet. So instead,
let's talk about some other things because my insecurities are keeping me from being able to talk about I would say the more how would I say, pressing matters here.
Yeah.
Like she, I don't think understands the idea of build-up to these kinds of deeper conversations because they already broached the fact that
she's like, there's nothing can be awkward now, right? Like,
right. We went through something that was like pretty close to being like a pretty serious thing here. And yeah, we can laugh about it now, but we still should talk about it. She's not saying by laughing about it, we're throwing it to the side and ignoring it. We're saying, hey, let's look at this from a perspective that's balanced because maybe at the time we were both a little out of balance there.
She's extending him an olive branch, basically, of like, hey, you know, for me, it's not really that big of a deal. You know, I laugh about it or whatever. But, you know, from what I can gather from you, that she might also be picking up on the fact that it might not be totally nothing for him, but whatever, you know.
At the very least, if we talk about it, then we
hopefully it can clear the air. Yeah, exactly. If there's something going on in the inside of him, then, hey, here's an opportunity. Want to talk about it?
So she hears the "you should" statement and goes, I don't want to hear that from a wolf like you.
Yep.
Now, what I love here is then she gets really vulnerable and says, you have no idea what it's like for animals who live constantly followed by death. Now, what I think is a really easy thing to draw from this is that she's basically saying you and I are nothing alike.
Right.
Just because you feel this way about a certain thing doesn't mean other people do. So you making "you should" statements is more projecting rather than helpful.
Right.
So, and then he goes into we might get devoured by carnivores one day without ever having been loved. And like, you don't need to worry about that. You'll never be able to understand me. And then she starts to walk away. What she's basically saying is you kind of ruined the offering that I gave you with your statements there. So I'm going to let you know in a little bit of a harsh way because I think it's warranted. This is, sorry, I'm making noise over here. This is where things are at. Specifically with me, here's this bit that I need you to understand.
Right.
And that if you're not willing to take the steps and the offerings with talking about these things, you won't be able to understand any more of it. So, and I'm done with the conversation here.
Right.
Goodbye.
And because you're trying to basically not only kind of control how I live my life by saying that, it's also something where there's an implied judgment on me for living my life the way I choose to live it. And which is, one, certainly not understanding, right?
No.
It's not coming from a desire to understand.
Yeah.
And two, that doesn't exactly make her want to be, you know, friendly with you.
Right. And what's good is that Legoshi then gets to hear that. That's something he'll have to internalize and think about. And given how we know how conscientious he actually is, this is something that will potentially like have good repercussions for him to understand down the line, especially given that by the end of this episode, they had a better version of the conversation than the way it was going eventually take place by the nature of this conflict that happened because of him refusing to let go of her harm.
Right.
Then she makes the whole thing of you need to stop like pretending like it's something where you're helping me and be selfish and just run, like use your strength, go for it. And then when he does, she has this moment of like, okay, he's actually willing and able to do this.
okay, he's able to make a decision in this instance and then stick with it.
Yep. And it's because I
Yeah.
feel like this is something where, because she's used to dealing with selfish people, that's easier for her.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
She's like, if you be a little bit selfish, then there you go, right?
You're predictable then.
Right. It's predictable. I can work with that, you know, like, and because come on, we all have things that we want for ourselves anyways. So
Yep.
then it makes it easier, because then she doesn't have to worry about trying to interpret that for him or whatever
Right.
in their interactions.
Yep.
And then she can just be like, yeah, I'll be, selfish for me and you be selfish for you. And if that little bit of selfishness is compatible, then cool, we can get along just fine. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And given that we know right now that her and Louis are in an actual relationship, that's something where, she's not thinking about it on that level. So
Right.
in some ways, the potential for a relationship in the kind of more friend kind of angle, whatever her definition of friend is, specifically, it's something that can be unique and maybe even something special if it keeps going in a positive angle. I loved her little note of that she can hear the growl when he talks,
Yeah.
and then questioning the contradiction of how can he speak in that voice when his expression is a completely different one, living the duality of a contradictory life,
Yep. I love it.
Yeah. More stuff that we get to see a little bit more from her perspective on things here.
Right, because it was basically because while that trope of the guy that grabs the girl and is like, no, we need to talk, and the girl's like, let go of me, I don't want to talk to you right now, and then people come in, and then that's how it ends up getting resolved. One of the things that I liked about how it was handled here is that once they were then gone, it was something where, because of the situation, they were forced to be in proximity to each other, and then as a result of that, she was able to pay attention to the fact that, okay, he is not doing this well necessarily, but there isn't, given the fact that there is that difference between his voice and the way he talks and things like that,
Right.
and the fact that he's like making sure not to touch me and things, I can tell that he's trying,
Right.
even though
It's a progression.
even though it's a progression, right?
Yep.
So then there's at least a reason for her to be accommodating with him and not have it be something where it's unhealthy, because then it's a better understanding of him.
Yeah.
Even if he hasn't necessarily, hopefully he has, gotten a better understanding of her.
Right. But I would say that one of the things that is really, and I love that you use the word accommodating because it brings up something that I think is rather important here, is that her life has been a form of accommodation.
Sure.
Because she can't take actual control of the situation much at all. In
Right.
fact, if anything, her trying to offer sex rather quickly to people that are maybe in these types of situations, even though she's never been with a carnivore before specifically, because maybe that's something where she doesn't even feel confident or safe enough to be able to try and do that. It's still something that she does potentially for that reason. But then when they move things back towards the kind of the outdoor area, they're no longer being chased or anything like that, she brings up this idea of being a cheerful carnivore by being someone that's a little bit more positive, saying, hey, I can already tell that you're doing a good acting job right now because you have that internal carnivore growly voice, but your expression is one that doesn't match that, which means there's effort being put to make that happen. But why don't you channel that into a little bit of cheerfulness? It is maybe in some ways a little bit of a rendition of his statement earlier of you should do this.
Yeah,
and she kind of is doing it a little bit more of a mature way, I would say.
Right.
But it's a why don't you,
Well, and if you think about it, because that's what she does, right? She puts on that smile,
she
right?
puts on a good face.
Like the first time they hung out and they were at the restaurant and everything, that was entirely what she was doing.
Yep.
And the fact that we then got the idea of, oh yeah, no, she very much remembers almost being eaten by a carnivore. She just doesn't remember the carnivore because, one, it was crazy dark out.
Yeah, so she couldn't see.
Yeah, and it's not like she's got a wolf smell, you know? So, like, well, there you go.
So that's another thing that's been dropped into the character relationship drama stuff. And then we get to see a little bit of that smile kind of from Legoshi, which was adorable how like quick it was, where he's all like, wait, what?
Yeah.
And hey, that's cool. Then we just cut really quickly over to the drama club stuff, and Bill scratched Louis, which seems like it was very accidental. Like it was
Right.
not intentional at all. But it's just a thing of where, he has to be careful. But
Yep.
we saw this little scene with the kind of the imagination of Louis and
Yeah.
like his fears specifically with regards to carnivores.
Uh-huh.
Oh, cool. We haven't seen this overt before, but he is scared. He is terrified of carnivores.
The shot of him when it shows him and like the carnivores there, and then it shows him and he's terrified.
Mm-hmm.
That is, I love that, because if you look at him right there, he looks like freaking Bambi at that point.
He looks younger.
Like he looks younger. His
Like a
eyes,
baby, yeah.
Like his eyes are one wide with fear, right? But
Right.
it takes over like almost the whole of his face, you know. And whether that's something where it's him, you know, being younger, or that's where he goes into that place of absolute vulnerability, where he doesn't necessarily have the chiseled cheekbones and facial structure of, you know, the school's, you know, brightest and most popular student, right?
Yeah.
And that's, you know, that's a whole other perspective that we get to see, because usually it's the way that he physically allows himself to be different when he's in a place where no one's watching. But if we have seen his mental state when he's in those situations where he's forced to be fully vulnerable, I don't think we see it at this level, because there's always this aspect of himself where he's not allowing himself to be vulnerable with himself because he doesn't like that side of himself, right? His own form of repression, basically.
Well, yeah, that's one of the major growths of like any child specifically, is that they go from being I'm vulnerable and I need help to
Right.
slightly like
Kill the
young,
boy that the man may live.
Yeah, exactly. But then when they hit like that teenage phase and stuff, that's when they start to realize their competence, and they are like, no, I don't need any help. I can do it all by myself.
But then maybe not being fully secure in the fact that they are still making that transition.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, I really loved this whole setup here when you realize that this is a Louis focused kind of showing his perspective on things here within the class or the club. When we see him put into a vulnerable situation where he gets cut, he gets Legoshi coming up, and Legoshi kind of has a little bit of a vibe of hostility of like, I hope you don't get a scar. I heard Bill hurt you. And the way he does it isn't like Louis senpai, you know?
Yeah,
Are you okay? It's like, hey, I heard what happened.
Yeah.
I hope it doesn't leave a scar.
Right.
And it's like, whoa, Legoshi.
Yeah.
You're getting better at expressing yourself, but this is coming from the place of the fact that you know that he and Haru are together. So
right, exactly.
And leave personal stuff out of this.
Well, I was actually really excited to see that, because that's something where he's doing that with words, which is something that Legoshi doesn't often do.
Yeah, but I don't think it's conscious. This is the problem when you have jealousy.
Yes,
when you have jealousy.
That's true.
When you have jealousy specifically on the angle of some other guy out there likes the person you like. You're in this situation where you're like, I should be the better person and just not have that change my view of them. But then you say something and you're like, crap.
Right.
My jealousy colored the words that I said,
Right.
and tainted it with this little bit of just animosity.
But the way I see it, it's still a little bit of that venting, basically, right? And even if it's
healthy,
even if it's kind of childish,
it's
right?
very childish.
That's still something where Legoshi is using his words to express his displeasure with Louis, right? And that's something where it's like,
Again,
okay,
are you saying that he's consciously doing this though?
it doesn't necessarily matter if he's consciously doing it.
Okay.
It would be much better if he was consciously doing it, right?
Gotcha.
And in the eventual sense of things, down the road, hopefully that's a place that it can go to.
Right.
But at least for right now, it's something where he's been open enough with himself about the fact that he very much doesn't like that, Louis and Haru are together.
Yeah.
That when things like this happen, he is able to actually give that response rather than just squeezing really tight whatever he's holding at the moment.
Yeah.
So
to show the Louis dynamic here though, with how he's losing a little bit of control of the class though, I thought was a really cool way to put him almost immediately into a situation where you can see that he's like trying to regain it. So he then hey, everyone do the whole thing. No mistakes or anything. Juno shows up, draws a lot of focus away from him and his thing there, and providing a little bit of a salve to all of them of, hey, yeah, this
Fun
cute girl
times.
showed up and
Yeah.
she's really excited to be here with all of you, and she did a really heroic thing with helping a sloth. That was great comedy, by the way. But the fact then that after she gathers all the attention, which I'm not even sure how conscious she is really within that, because she did say she wants to be the next B-star in the later scene. But then the fact that she kind of casually threw it all to the side and went, Legoshi, and everyone just kind of goes, wait,
all that.
that was in the later scene.
Oh, that's
though,
right, yeah.
At the carnival. But just the festival.
Choose a pattern.
But there is definitely a repetition there that is potentially going to be a negative for Legoshi he's going to have to deal with.
Yeah, and it's interesting that Louis in that moment was kind of when he decided, like, oh, I'm gonna talk to her, in private. That's probably when it happened, since it transitions to that.
Yep.
But the fact that it happens after he gets cut by Bill, and it goes into that point of being scared and being forced to be vulnerable, then the fact that this is his sort of response to that, almost, even though the two things are totally disconnected,
Right. Yeah, I think that it is a sign of his desire to maintain a semblance of control over the environments that he's in.
Right.
Because in the same way, which all the other characters do a similar thing as well, they are not able to gel properly within their environment because of the whole themes of this show regarding nature and all that. And when he thinks he is in control of the environment there, and he kind of gives a little bit of a condescending bit to her there.
And she picks up on that.
She picks up on it really quickly and then establishes very real direct control and kind of levels a ultimatum at him.
Sure.
Of like, let's just go to war. Like, I'm declaring war on you.
Yep.
I'm going to get this. I'm going to get this. I'm going to beat you at this. And here's how strong I am. You can't stop me. Now, does this seem like the same person that we met when we first saw Juno? No.
Nope.
But we definitely saw her frustrations with regards to the way things are.
Yes.
So if her personality is going to be the one of, I will make my own change, there's a positive in that.
Yep.
There's also something that's quite terrifying in that. Because who's her friends right now? Everyone and no one.
Sure.
In a lot of ways, I see her as being more alone than any of the other characters that are like main characters in the show right now.
Because if the stuff that she's doing is just for the purpose of establishing territorial control or whatever,
dominance or something like that,
then what real connections does she have?
Sure.
Yeah.
A lot of people might like her. A lot of people might be attracted to her. But this is something where I feel like she's approaching this in a way that is... It needs a little bit more potential. It needs a little bit more foundation for longevity, I guess. And they brought up the whole thing of greed, which I thought was a really cool angle to bring about in it, because then she shifts into a little bit more of a less aggressive kind of pose, and they have a real conversation here. I thought it was really good.
Oh yeah, that was one of the things that I thought was really interesting, because when she just pushed Louis to the ground, right, I was like, oh, okay, I did not see this coming, right? Yeah. But then she, once she's basically said what she wanted to say, she then backs off, helps him up, and it's like, all right, cool. Like this is where we're at right now. And it was something where it was showing that even though she was very much using the fact that she could physically overpower him, it was something where she was in control, right? She stopped when she wanted to. Yeah. And that's something that Legoshi could learn.
Ooh, I like that. Then we cut over to the festival and we see, Juno understands now where Legoshi's feelings are being directed towards. And she's just like, what? Yep. So I am worried about now another wolf-rabbit relationship that might develop.
Well, and one of the other things that I'm kind of curious about is that Louis told her to watch Legoshi.
Oh, he knew.
Now,
Louis knew what he was doing.
Oh, Louis knew what he was
smart.
No, definitely. Yeah. But I thought originally that he wouldn't mention Haru because he wouldn't want to draw ire on Haru.
Well, I don't think he's going to think that it would. I don't think he thought that it would do that, though.
I think he did. I think he was aware, because he knew that, if she watches, he's like, you'll probably find out eventually, right? And it's not that he doesn't like you, it's that he specifically likes Haru, right? Which seems like it's something where he is being essentially greedy enough about the connection that he has with Haru and not wanting Legoshi to cause conflict there, that he is sending someone into the midst that will be antagonistic to Haru with the hopes of it basically causing enough tension that it breaks things off with Legoshi, maybe. Now, I might be reading into it too much, but it seemed to be something where it was because they were both in sort of territorial threat display mode, where he was choosing territory over connection specifically. Like
he couldn't. No, he couldn't. She made the point in that. No, we're going to war. There was no
not connection with Juno, but connection with Haru.
What? I'm lost.
Because it's something where essentially it's going to be putting Haru into the line of fire essentially if they're going to war.
See, I don't think he was thinking that far ahead. I don't think he was thinking that far ahead. Because let's look at this here.
Mm-hmm.
How does Juno do this other than by making herself the villain? Like she would literally have to become the villain in a lot of ways in order to drive a wedge between Haru and Legoshi. So I don't think that he was thinking that far ahead.
Okay, he might, I could totally see him not thinking that far ahead, consciously, but it still seems like a subconscious prioritization that is just drawing, connection again to some of Louis' flaws.
I think we kind of bring that up because they end up conveniently showing because of the means of the plot, we have to see the instance of Juno learning about this quickly.
In this episode.
So I don't think
ties up nicely.
Yeah, I don't think there's a connection that can necessarily be drawn there because there's other explanations that fit the bill pretty easily. One is Legoshi's own internal maturation process that's going on just doesn't leave room for him to have a healthy relationship with anyone right now. He is so still wrapped up inside himself and all twisted up because he's still hasn't even figured out who he is yet.
Oh, totally.
That in that respect, all Louis has to do is go, have you even seen Legoshi? Do you know who he is?
Mm-hmm.
He's not able to have a healthy, wholesome relationship right now without some serious work done with him.
I guess I just figured that wasn't necessarily what Louis was focusing on, and that Louis wouldn't have quite as much of an insight into all the stuff that that Legoshi's going through. But
I thought, if anything, because of the way that Legoshi and Louis have had their one-on-one conversations in the past episodes, that actually, Louis doesn't need much more, time with Legoshi. You know how he basically was he has a secret on everyone in the drama club? He basically already knows Legoshi's whole thing. He's like, I've got you figured out. You are, yes, someone that I am afraid of because you're a carnivore. You're also a very strong carnivore.
But it's also why he's frustrated with Legoshi because of all that stuff.
All that other stuff, and where he
sees his own weaknesses or the things that he would hate about himself and things like that.
Yes.
And Legoshi not being addressed by Legoshi.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I would say, if anything, there is definitely the Haru stuff, but there's a bunch of other explanations that I see kind of easily slotting into where if he was thinking all the way to that end, it gets too much into intent, I guess, and that's just where I feel like it's a little tricky to judge that specifically with Louis, because he's been the one that we maybe judged the intent of the hardest in the beginning of the show, and over the course of time, our perspective on him has probably changed the most dramatically.
Well, I would say he knows, and he's probably the person out of everyone in the show so far that understands himself the most.
Sure.
And that way, and because of that, any intentions that he does have are a lot more overt. They're not as complicated because he's already figured out what he wants,
Yeah, that's possible.
Whereas with some of the other characters, they don't necessarily know.
Okay. I would say that definitely feels right. I could see Haru actually being the one that knows herself potentially the most, even more than Louis.
I was thinking of her right after Louis.
Yeah, but
certainly not Legoshi.
Right, but what it also could be is that Louis is just a character that actually has some of the most internalized conflict. So him thinking primarily about himself, but not going so multi connection kind of degrees of separation to, because I'm saying this, that means that this. It just feels so big and so open of a way of thinking that I feel like he would be more greedy, if you will, and not thinking that far out. But I see the potential. I see the potential there.
Yeah.
So yeah. The scene where everything went dark, though.
Yep, that was
Again, kind of
awesome.
Discussion on that.
Like this isn't an action show, right?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't need to go into any actual like in-depth fights between
gotcha.
carnivores and things like that in this situation. But oh man, that was just so cool to have lights go out. Oh no, tense, terrifying situation. Is there going to be a devouring right here, right now? Like, what's going to happen? And then to just be like, okay, heard, everyone get into groups, and then, carnivores on the outside. Like that just seemed so cool because it felt like it was an opportunity for Legoshi to demonstrate the situations where him being a wolf is a good thing.
Right.
And he doesn't really get those.
Yeah. One of the things that I thought about that was rather dark, is that this was something that was a thing that they immediately started doing, meaning that there was probably moments where they had to talk about what would happen if this kind of a thing happened.
Sure.
Now, it might be something that's not at all focused or localized on the class specifically, but it did give me this really kind of messed up vibe that just a light outage outside caused actual panic.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is how fragile this society is that they have. Is that a light outage in a public park or what have you caused a state of panic. Like we saw other herbivores and what have you just running around in a state of actual panic.
Right.
Like if human beings were in a situation where there was a concert or something and then suddenly the lights went out and we couldn't see and our eyes had to adjust a little bit to the dark, we wouldn't all just suddenly start eating each other.
Well, yeah. Thankfully, we don't have a precedent for actually eating each other.
No, but I'm bringing up the point in that the actual chaos wouldn't be something where people would all start screaming and freaking out. People would start going, oh man.
Yeah, right.
But this is something where I think the anthropomorphizing of the animals makes us think sometimes that, oh yeah, they're just like people. They are people. They're persons and such. But the whole fight or flight instinct is dramatically amplified.
Oh yeah,
for the sake of the narrative. But this was all it took.
Right.
Meaning that if there was a carnivore out there that was specifically trying to devour someone, they could have easily done it.
Well, and
easily.
Because this felt like what I would expect would happen when there might be a fear in, say, our world of some sort of active violent situation at a public place. And it's like,
what could you mean?
Yeah, exactly. Not gonna say for algorithms, but and then it's like, okay, this is terrifying. And like you were saying, they probably did have drills, of like, all right, if it ever seems like this is about to happen, do this. Or maybe because of an instincts thing, maybe there aren't drills like that. No. But then, the carnivores or the herbivores or whatever, because it's something where it would be something that they'd be afraid of in the back of their minds or maybe the front of their minds.
They just talk about it.
They've already thought through what to do in that situation, right?
Right.
So
I did like that the group all stuck together. They knew their roles specifically within it. I did like also how, I think it was Dom, the bird, specifically was like, hold my hand. Please take my hand. I can't see. It was really wholesome and heartwarming to see a moment where the leader of the group, the organizer one, immediately felt, well, weirdly enough to say, even though they were scared, comfortable enough to be like, hey, please take my hand.
Right.
And now I want to just double check to make sure that I got that part actually right. But let's see. Light goes out. It's a blackout. Are you okay, guys? And Dom goes, Legoshi, where are you? He says, right here. Oh, no. He says, I'm going to grab your hand. So no, it wasn't him asking for his hand. Okay. So if
Yeah.
anything, that might have been a little awkward for him. But I thought that was a really cool. I thought that was a really cool scene just to have happen there.
Yep.
In that Legoshi has grown a lot since the first few episodes, and he really felt like a leader here in comparison to where he was in the first episode.
And that shot of just the carnivores standing around in a circle, just ready, like if this show ever gets into a point where like Legoshi or one of the other carnivores or whatever has a legit reason to need to straight fight off another carnivore, that will be terrifying, and that will also at the same time be so cool to watch. Like, but you know, for the sake of everything being happy and peaceful, I hope that doesn't happen.
Right. But yeah, she said
Louis.
She said Louis.
Yep. That's
I will say that, you know, 'cause we're at the end of the discussion now, looking back, this was quite a melodrama episode in a lot of ways. But this was melodrama that we knew was coming.
yes,
But-
and it kind of needed to happen.
Well, yeah, we knew it was coming.
Right.
But I think the one part in this that showed an active participation, some agency in a character that we weren't expecting was Juno. So
yeah.
I will say that because this is character development being realized and then also starting, it made the melodrama stuff worthwhile.
Yes.
So
Yes.
good episode, and surprisingly way more discussion than I actually thought we were going to get out of this one.
And I'm really glad that Haru recognized, oh, sorry, I can't believe I mistook you for Louis. Oh, I mistook you for Louis. And so that basically she realized very quickly, okay, yeah.
How does that make him feel?
Right, which is great, because then that's the chance for them to potentially talk about it in the future, even if
Another
Legoshi doesn't
prompt
necessarily
for it,
want to it. Right, as opposed to it just being something where Legoshi internalizes it and represses it and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Because that is what would make sense for him to do at this point with where he's at on his journey. So the fact that that's there to sort of circumvent that thing that wouldn't be as interesting from a plot perspective, I really appreciate it.
Yeah. B-stars, y'all.
Yep.
It's that good. So thank you so much for watching this episode's reaction and discussion. If you want to see the next episode's reaction and discussion right now, though, go check out the link in the description below for our Patreon. You can get on early access there. You can watch full-length timer reactions there, and all this comes with Discord access. You can chat with us and the community there about this show, about anime in general, and you can also talk with Jacob about the sci-fi novel that he wrote.
Yep, wrote a sci-fi novel called Battle Lines. It's pretty awesome, and if you want to see just how awesome, go to Amazon, link in the description down below to check it out.
Yeah, so if any of that interests you, we'll see it there. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb,
I'm Jacob.
and we'll see you all next time.